Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is my Saturday news and opinion video. Do a weekly video. And a couple things I'll be talking about. If you haven't already seen the thumbnail, I'll be talking about defund police. Defunding the police. Yes, that was in the news. I'll be talking about that. I'll have an opinion on that. Um, Also in the news this past week, today is I'm recording this. Um, what is it? June 12th at 10:43 p.m. Friday, June 12th, 2020. By the time you watch this, it will most likely be Saturday, June 13th, 2020. So that's when I'll have the video out here. So defund the police, defunding the police. Goodness. All right. So next thing I'll talk about after that is the Houston funeral for George Floyd. So I have some bit of information, maybe not much. I didn't go to it, but I'll talk a little bit about it. And then BLM worldwide, Black Lives Matter worldwide. The movement went worldwide in a matter of a week. The movement just jumped to every country in the whole world. Even I think even in South Korea had a Black Lives Matter protest. Amazing, amazing. This thing's just taking off, or is it? Or is it just social engineering at its finest? I think the latter. And the last thing I'll talk about is CHAZ. No, not Chad. CHAZ, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone in Seattle. I've been to Seattle. I've where do I go? I go to the Space Needle. I've been there twice. I take the family there. I don't take my family to downtown or the boardwalk area. I don't take them there. Although the Space Needle is very close to those areas, I tend to, if I do go, when I did go to Seattle, I tend to stay close to the Space Needle, stay at a hotel close to the Space Needle, and just go to the Space Needle and enjoy the scenery from there, and then leave Seattle. Seattle's, it's very nice when you go at the right time of the year. Very beautiful, but I wouldn't go there. I'm not going there this year, that's for sure. All right, so let's first talk about defunding the police. So this whole idea of defunding the police is just ridiculous. Okay, it's ridiculous. All right. So you know, first of all, this concept of defunding the police, uh, it's not, there was some recent polls. I think there's 64% of Americans oppose defunding the police. All right, and that's uh, and I doubt that's an accurate number. I think it's higher. I think it's probably like 80 to 90, probably like 99% of Americans don't want to, at least the voting Americans who are legally able to vote, don't want to defund the police. Again, we're talking about the fringe left radical. Um, Matter of fact, I have here a um, a tweet from AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So let's take a look at that. See what it says. It says here. Um, I'll just kind of read it. I'll read it here. Um, what does an America with defunded police look like to you? And I guess that was a question asked to uh, AOC. I don't even know her name. I'll just say AOC. It's kind of easier for me to remember. And her reply in the tweet was, the good news is that it's actually doesn't take a ton of imagination. Okay, ton of imagination. It looks like a suburb. Affluent white communities already live in a world where they choose to fund youth, health, housing, etc., more than they fund police. These communities have lower crime rates, not because they have more police, but because they have more resources to support healthy society in a way that reduces crime. Okay, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Doesn't it? So should we defund the police everywhere and try to build resources? I think that's a good idea, but where does that money come from? You know, the money in affluent neighborhoods come from the affluent people in those neighborhoods. So that's why there is no crime. Why would there be crime in an affluent neighborhood? Trying to compare this to an affluent neighborhood, and she actually mentions a white community, which I I don't know exactly what she's talking about, but most communities around in America are not all white. All right, so very racist to even put that in there. But let's just continue. Okay, let's when a teenager or preteen does something harmful in a suburb, I say teen because this is often where lifelong suicidal cycles begin for blacks and brown communities. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think a lot of it has to do with uh, how you raise children, and there are a lot of single parents out there, broken families. I think if you change that, then that issue could be resolved very quickly. But a lot of broken families. All right, but let's continue here. White communities bend over backwards to find alternatives to incarceration for their loved ones to protect their future, like community service or rehab or restorative measures. Well, I think if you're a juvenile, you don't really go to prison per se. You have alternatives anyway. So I'm not sure what she's talking about. Uh, why don't we treat black and brown people the same way? Why doesn't the criminal justice, why does the criminal system care about black teens' future the way they care for white teens' future? Why doesn't the news use black people's graduation or family photo in stories the way they do when they cover white people? E.g., Brock Turner. I don't know who Brock Turner is. Who commits harmful crimes? White people, Brock Turner, who commits harmful crimes. I don't know who Brock Turner is. Affluent white suburbs also design their own lives so that they walk through the world without having much interruption or interaction with police at all, aside from community events and speeding tickets. And many of these communities try to reduce those too. Let me see what else is this here. Something on the bottom. Just start there would be a dramatically. Just starting there would be a dramatically and radically different world than what we are experiencing now. Now, I have to agree with that because she just described the world, right? She just literally described like 90% of America. Okay, 90% of America is what she basically described. So why would we want to why would we want to like be radically different than that? We wouldn't. At least I wouldn't. And so just defunding the police, like okay, first of all, in the ghettos, all right, you have a tremendous amount of crime in the ghettos. Okay, in the ghettos is where you have tremendous amount of drugs being sold and used, prostitution as well, probably gambling. Most states don't allow for gambling, especially if you make it a business of gambling. You have to be licensed, and again, this probably happens in the ghettos more often than in affluent, I wouldn't even say white neighborhoods, I would say just affluent neighborhoods, because there are plenty of people of all different races who are affluent and don't live in the ghetto. They don't want to live in the ghettos. So this is nonsense in my opinion. So the ghettos are way different. All right, the ghettos are way different. Areas of low income tendency there's a tendency of higher crimes being committed, and not only that, the violence. All right, when you're in an area of low income ghetto and crimes, drugs, prostitution, along what comes along with that is a lot of gang activity, and gang activity that is dependent on an area to operate, which is a turf. And that's where you're having a lot of the violent crimes occurring. All right. Now, if you want to defund the police, that's questionable. Now, if you don't want the police, I would just say don't call the police. The police won't come. All right. And a matter of fact, if you never call the police, they will never come. They will never come. All right. I can guarantee you that. Uh, every incident that has happened recently, all right, whatever that incident is, just go back 2, 10, 20 years, the situation has always been someone called the police. That's how it all starts. It's either someone calls the police or a crime is committed in front of a police, right? Speeding or being witnessed right in front of the police. There is a crime being committed. So that's where the involvement is. So instead of defunding the police, why not just not call the police? That'd be a way simpler solution, and everyone would be happy. All right, the police would still be around for for the people who want the police to be around. For the people who don't want the police to be around, which, as far as I know, typically don't call the police. It's usually handled through violence. When there's a conflict and the police are not involved, it's usually done in a private manner through violence. Through violence. So strange times we live in. If you ask me, we already live in anarchy. We live in a world where uncertainty is around us all the time. And we build an infrastructure, a system to mitigate the unknown, to mitigate the uncertainty. Why would we want to remove that and create more chaos? I just don't understand it. Anyways, just want to share that with you. So that's the defund police. Now I'm going to go talk about George Floyd's funeral. George Floyd's funeral, and it happened to be the same day my wife was going to work. So she's going to work, actually going to an office building in the Galleria area. But I think the funeral is held around the southwest side of Houston, around outside the 610 Beltway and somewhere along the 59 highway, so somewhere around there. She has to drive through there, so she was a little concerned. She didn't go. I didn't go. All right. We're in the middle of a pandemic. A lot of people went. A lot of people talk. I think Al Sharpton was there. The mayor of Houston was there. I didn't pay attention. That's just the headlines that I saw. So there wasn't any riots. Of course, I don't think there would be. It would be highly disrespectful for the radical left to riot on the day of the funeral of George Floyd. So I didn't anticipate any riots. And I have to say, since my last video, which was, what was it, America Burning, since that Sunday, there really hasn't been a lot of riots. The riots have calmed down quite a bit, a lot. Matter of fact, when I look on the scanner app that I have, there's no riots going on, barely any riots. So it's calmed down quite a bit, quite a bit. So just want to cover that real quick. It did happen in Houston. No, I did not go. All right, neither did my wife or anybody in my family. And no, I don't know anybody I know that went there at all. All right, considering what we know, the history of George Floyd, that he was a career criminal, did a lot of bad things, kind of takes away, not of his death, but the character, it changes things. All right, so let's go on to the next subject. Okay, Black Lives Matter worldwide. So as soon as the hammer was being brought down on so-called Antifa or any radical left wing agitators, the rioting and the looting all of a sudden just started going down. It just went away. Just as fast as it came, it just went away as soon as the hammer was being brought down. And then all of a sudden, the movement started leaving the country. All right, the movement started leaving the country and going to like the UK. I think they toppled some statues over at the UK. I don't know where, but it was in Spain. It's in France. It's in maybe was it in Germany? Um, just any place that there wasn't a lot of black people. So like there was no Black Lives Matter in Africa. Actually, none. I think. Um, there wasn't any protest in China for some reason. Although China was like, for a while after the whole pandemic in China, they were targeting Africans and foreigners. All right, targeting Africans and foreigners. There was no Black Lives Matter protest in China or Russia. Okay, it seemed to be happening in nations that have they're an open nation, they're a free nation. They respect protesting, freedom of speech. Those are the areas that seem to have these quote unquote protests. I mean, there were some reports that South Korea has had a Black Lives Matter protest. I kind of hard. I kind of I find that hard to believe. I find that hard to believe, but apparently there were. So the movement has gone worldwide at a snap of a finger, like snap of a finger. Highly engineered, highly engineered. Social engineering at its finest. I mean, really. And the fake news, man, they were eating it up, hook, line, and sinker. It was it was it was too predictable, in my opinion. All right, the last thing I'm going to talk about now is CHAZ, not Chad, CHAZ, CHAZ, Seattle, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. Okay, so which this was supposed to be a protest march that is no longer a march. All right, it's a camp-in, and so I've been to Seattle, and it's a great place to visit because it at the right time of the year. If you go when it's not raining and not cloudy all the time, um, I go visit the Space Needle. Very nice, very beautiful. That's about it. Other than that, I mean, downtown is pretty scummy. The boardwalk, okay, okay. If there's not too many homeless people peeing and crapping all over the place, and you know, just not a place that I would choose to live. Maybe to visit once in a while, for a couple days and then leave. It's not that bad. But this whole autonomous zone is a joke. It's fantasy. I don't believe for a second that this will last too long, nor will this movement grow. I think the policies of the left the left, the political policies of the left is concerning. Concerning. I think they rely on the ignorance and the stupidity of their base, and also of the young. The young, if you know, I think the young are falling for this. Um, I think they're naive. They don't really understand how the world really works and how things really gets done. They're idealist. Okay, they're either um, the people who are going along with this are either young and idealist and are naive, um, or they're stupid, uneducated, or they know exactly what they're doing, and they're just incompetent. All right, they don't understand the ramifications of their policy when it comes to running a city. So, in my opinion, this is not really a state issue or a federal issue. This is a city issue run by locals, the local government, and the consequence of their fatal mistake. The governor of Seattle, or not the governor of Seattle, the mayor of Seattle, and to some degree the governor of Washington, is that their state, you know, it's in a lot of ways, it's the west coast of America is, in my opinion, not a desirable place to be. Even if you are aligned politically, ideologically aligned to what's going on in those states, it's still not a good place to be because wages have been stagnant, um, housing costs are high, homeless problems very very high, and homeless problems are related to drug abuse problems. So there's drug abuse in these places, and now they want to also defund the police. A lot of these places want to defund the police, and then you got this CHAZ, this autonomous zone, Capitol Hill autonomous zone. They think that they can just take over an area and call it autonomous. In the beginning, it seems great as long as there's resources, but who wants to fund this shenanigan? Not me, and but I don't live there, so the people who live there, I don't think they're going to really fund the shenanigan that's going on. And so as soon as the resources run out, whatever it be, water, power, food, support, as soon as that runs out, you got to also think about who's going to clean up that mess. Who's going to clean up the graffiti and the garbage and the human waste that's going on over there? So this is one of those things that it's a tragedy of the commons, which everybody wants to participate, but nobody wants to take responsibility or maintenance of the situation. The irony of the whole thing is you got this utopia anarchy for now, but as soon as you get a group of people together and have a leader, you have now formed a government. Okay? So once you do that, you've now formed a government. You are no longer an anarchy. All right? You're no longer autonomous. So this whole irony, this is just nonsense. I don't think it's going to last long. It's either going to lose momentum or it's going to end violently. And yes, I'm talking about CHAZ, Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone in Seattle. It's going to either lose steam and disperse on its own because it never was a real thing, or it's going to end violently. All right? Just because, you got a degree of lawlessness and a form of control through violence, and usually that's done through a warlord, quote unquote warlord, warlord, warlord. But usually, to control things, you have to do it through violence in these type of scenarios. So, like I said, it's either gonna die, the movement's gonna die slowly, painfully, or quickly. Doesn't matter. It's gonna die, and or it's going to end violently. So, in either case, it's a no. It's a no starter, in my opinion. Anyways, I'm gonna wrap up this episode. I hope you all enjoyed it. Just trying something a little different. So this is the Saturday edition of my videos. Please stick around for maybe a Sunday where I talk about the COVID problem, and enjoy the rest of my videos that I put up during the weekdays. Me riding a bike, kayaking, laser dry firing, talking about guns, whatever it may be. Until next time, everyone, please subscribe, like, share, comment. Let me know what you think. Until next time, bye-bye.